Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray and I teach watercolor, and today we are doing our Make Your Mark project. I'm actually super excited for this project. It's very different than anything we've done so far, and I'm going to be teaching you some drawing techniques, and we're going to be using a ton of new supplies. So it's going to be fun. We're going to be doing this project in 5 steps. Our very first step is we are going to do our continuous line drawing, which is this inky part. Our second step is we'll put some details on that leaf. Our third step is we are going to be doing organic wash with these rounder shapes. And then step 4 is another layer of that after that has dried. And then our last step is make your mark. You're gonna just play with different mark makings, shapes, forms, lines, textures. You're just gonna have some fun.
Awesome.
So what you need to do this project, we have our Let's Make Art watercolor paper. I cut the sheet in half and then I taped it using our Holbein soft tape. I am using, sorry, I gotta move all my stuff. I'm using 3 paintbrushes for this project, around 2, around 6, and around 12. I also have a Tombow Monotwin, which is a great pen to use with watercolor. It has 2 different sides. One is for a thin line and one is for a thick. It will not smear when it's wet. Just wonderful. That's what we like to see in watercolor. And I also have this Lumiere Gold ink. This is an acrylic paint. I guess it's not ink. This is gold acrylic paint, and the brand is Jacquard Lumiere. So we'll be using that for our accent details. And then we have 3 colors today. Let me put some on my palette. Sorry about that. Well, our first color is Bleed Proof White, which I'm not gonna swatch for you because it's white. And if you're like, what is Bleed Proof White? Bleed Proof White is essentially very condensed white gouache. So it's a little bit stronger and more opaque than regular white gouache, which is why, like, it's, how do I say this? Regular white gouache you can mix with other colors, other gouaches, watercolors. They do not recommend mixing Bleed Proof White because it's so condensed. Like, you wanna savor it, I feel like, where regular gouache, you can use that as like a mixing tool. But sometimes I mix it anyway because I'm edgy.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Obviously.
Okay, our first color is Bleed Proof White. Second color is Space Blue. And our third color is Tangerine. Okay?
Okay.
So the theme of this box is called Wabi Sabi, which is a term and a philosophy that I learned when I was in college taking my first ceramics class. And it was just this really wonderful, how do I say this? It was wonderful starting off a new class, especially in ceramics, learning about Wabi Sabi, because essentially Wabi Sabi is the appreciation for the imperfect. And actually I can read you a little something here. In traditional Japanese aesthetics, Wabi Sabi is a worldview centered on the acceptance of imperfection. The aesthetic is sometimes described as one of appreciating beauty that is imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete in nature. And so when you're trying something new, we have this kind of expectation that something has to be perfect or perfect in order for it to be worthy or good, but there is beautiful in the fact that something is imperfect. There is beauty in noticing the wonky and weird. There is beauty in the inconsistent, the impermanent, the marks that you're gonna make because they're not like somebody else's marks. And it just brings this new perspective to creating and making in this world that I think is super beneficial for us to have. So I'm really excited to do these projects with you because I really want you to explore and play. So much of our projects are about trying to create, trying to use like traditional techniques to create depth and form and all this stuff, which is super valuable to know. I don't want to discount that. But I think sometimes we lose the whole point of it, which is like play and exploration. And it's not just trying something new, it's trying something new and allowing it to be weird or bad or funky or who knows what this is going to turn out like. But the process is the joy of it. So that's what this project is all about. I'm really excited. And Let's do our oath.
Okay.
And then get going. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you so much. Now, the first step we're doing is actually a drawing exercise. And the very first time I did it, I was so frustrated because it's really hard the first time, but it's so fun in the end. So what we're gonna do is a continuous contour and line drawing, and then we're gonna do it blind. And what that means is you cannot look at your paper while we are drawing this, okay? Which is gonna be so hard. You're thinking, oh yeah, okay. No, my friends, this is gonna be hard, but that's okay, we can do hard things. Now, I grabbed, I trimmed this off of my ficus tree in my studio, but you can use anything, and if you, how do I say this? Just grab an object. I would prefer it to be something like organic to draw, because that's what we're gonna look at. That's gonna be our model to draw it. Okay.
Okay.
So essentially what you do, and I'm gonna tell you, and then we'll get going into it, okay? So I'm going to use my pen, and what you do is you like start anywhere on the object with your eye, okay? And then you put your pen on your paper. You are not allowed to lift your pen up. You are not allowed to look down at your paper. You are only allowed to look at the object. And what you're going to do is you are essentially going to trace the line edge, which is the contour. You're going to trace the edge with your eye. And then whatever your eye sees, that's what you draw, okay? And you're going to get lost. That's okay. And also, it's easier if you do it slower. So I'm going to just allow yourself to be as slow as you want, but I have found that you tend to be a little bit more accurate when you allow yourself to be slow, okay?
Wow.
I know. The first time I did this, it was actually a portrait. It was a drawing class, and we had to look at the person like across from us, and we had to draw them without looking down
Like
continuously.
staring at each other.
It was the best. And then you like hang up all of them, and they're super weird. Like you can't look at your paper. You have no idea what is coming out. And gosh, it was just it's just a delight at the end. You don't go into it saying, oh, I knew that I just really drew this really fancy portrait and it's gonna be super realistic. You go into it and be like, look at these weird shapes that I got, how funny. Or like, whoa, his eyeball is all the way over here. Like,
I'm so sorry.
really sorry about that. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
So I'm gonna use the thin point, and I'm gonna angle it because I think composition-wise it's just a little bit better if there's a soft angle across. I'm gonna move this down so you guys can see it in frame. And we're just gonna go. So I'm going to do my very best not to look at my paper. I'm only gonna look at this. Keenan, if you see me looking at my paper, call me out.
I'll ring the bell.
Okay, perfect. Dang.
I'm ready.
Okay, all right, so I'm well, I can start looking at my paper, and then I gotta stop.
Oh, God, okay.
Okay, ready, go. The hardest part is when you try and get back to a point, like the start of a leaf. Because you know it goes back to a point. And if I'm getting close off the paper, will you tell me? Oh,
I got your eyes and the paper.
Yep.
This is the most I've ever focused in my life.
Okay, now I'm trying to do my top leaf, and then I run into the other leaf. So I'm like, we'll just start over here. I'm going down, but I gotta finish that leaf up. Let's try and do the other side. Back to the stem. Another side leaf. One more. Okay. Whoa, it's so tiny. It's a baby. It's a baby. Okay, so this is it. Isn't that kind of fun though?
That's super cool.
Like, everybody's is gonna look so different. I'm surprised by how tiny mine went because of how big this was. I think that shows that I'm a little bit nervous. But that's totally okay, all right? So I don't want you to stress about that. And now what we're gonna do is we are gonna do some drawing techniques now that we can look at our paper to maybe shape this a little bit more so people can actually tell that it's leaves, that kind of thing. So you can keep using the thin side, or if you want to move to the thick side, we're moving on to step 2. And so I'm just going to put in the stem a little bit more. And then you can put in veins, so like a line through it. Sometimes I like to do little detail lines coming out.
That's a lot of fun.
Isn't it?
What a challenge.
It is so, like the first time I did it, and I need to show some respect to my drawing teacher right now because I thought she was off of her rocker because she walked around the class and her favorite ones were the weirdest, like the craziest ones. She was like, this is amazing. And I was just like, lady, you are crazy. And I don't know what I'm gonna learn from you, which is so rude of me to think.
Sure, yeah, but also understandable.
But that's totally what I thought. And then at the end of it, I was just like, oh, I get it. I get it. You're not walking around trying to celebrate the ones that look exactly like the person. You're walking around celebrating the ones that are different and exciting and helps us look at things a new way. Yeah. And I don't know, that's just such a gift when it comes to drawing and art. Okay, so I'm gonna thicken my stem. You can switch to the other side if you want, or you can just do like sketchy lines. I allowed my lines to be kind of sketchy. Sketchy means like back and forth, like not a strong line. And then if you're looking at it and you're like, where is there a stem? You can make one up. Now this is where you get to kind of play. You can even finish off some of your leaves if it doesn't have an edge. I think I actually might add a leaf right here just so this drawing speaks to the top half. So to do that, and I'm giving you guys complete freedom here. You can look at it, your painting or your drawing, and decide what it needs. You can just go with whatever you drew. There's no wrong way to do this. That. And I kind of liked how there was like little random ones coming out. Okay. But like, this is pretty too.
Yeah, it is.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I like that.
It's just so fun. Okay, that was step 1 and 2. Know that you can always go back in with this whenever you want. You can always add if you want more leaves. You can even see here when I was thinking about these projects and what I wanted to do, I thought about doing florals a little bit, but I just felt like it would be so fun to grab a leaf and go from there. And it's a little bit harder to find flowers, I thought. So play with it. Allow yourself to play with it. Okay, now we're gonna move on to step 3. And this is where we are going to do some organic washes. So I'm gonna grab my round 12. And organic means like round, kind of sinuous, which is sinuous.
Sinuous.
Sinuous shapes, which is, we learned that when we learned about Matisse.
Oh.
Okay, round 12, grab your space blue, grab Tangerine and mix that together. And look at this gorgeous green. Now I'm gonna do a couple different ratios of the paint to get different colors. So some of the space blue I'm gonna just take and add water to it by itself because it's just really this lovely blue. And then I'm gonna take some Tangerine and just add water to that. And then let's take some more with a little bit of blue, maybe not as much blue, so it's more like a soft green. So I kind of want a full range of greens and blues here, as much as you can give me. Okay, so we got a range here. Now I'm gonna take my 12 and I'm just going to play with wet on wet. So I'm gonna start, you can start anywhere. There are no rules. We're just making marks on a paper. I'm gonna take my 12, let's start with the water, and then maybe we'll start with like Space blue, drop that in there. Rinse your brush. You can touch. I like to have the shapes touch because then you get some like bleeding. And then let's grab another color.
That reminds me of the beginner series.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first introduction to watercolor. I think, oh no, first beginner series, I guess I'll say. But I remember that being like a mind-blowing technique, and it still is.
Yeah, it's just fun.
It is. Look at that. Just the colors are still moving.
They're moving, and you can help them move too. Like if they're not moving as much as you want, you can say, green, go over here, my friend. Come on. Yeah. Come on, little fella. Go into that blue. So I would say, since we're just doing the first layer on this, we're going to be doing another layer once it dries. I'm going to say do less than you think that you need to, okay? Because I actually did, I should have brought it, I don't know where I put it. I actually did a couple versions of this project. And the very first one, I went really crazy with this first layer, and it felt like there was no breathing room. And you're like, what are you even talking about? Mm-hmm. When you look at a painting and you look at the composition, where there is a lot of stuff going on, that's action. And that's where our eyes go to. But there needs to be spaces for your eyes to rest as well. You need to feel like you can breathe within a composition so it feels a little bit more balanced. So these spaces where there's not a lot of color in the background, right here, these are our resting spots for our eyes. They allow us to breathe. And then we're just like, whoa, look at that over there. Okay. Oh, look at this over here. So it kind of helps lead things around as well. That's not always true for every painting because it also depends on intention, right? Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Francis Bacon, but his work is very intense and...
delicious.
Nope.
Oh, really?
Nope.
Not related to bacon.
No, it is. Gosh, what is the word? It's gory, but it has the feeling of violence without it actually being violent.
Oh.
So, like... very
unique.
Yes, but it's like that's his thing. So for him, he's probably not thinking, I need to make sure that there's peace and calm within this painting. You know what I mean? Because that's not really what he was going for. That's what I mean when I say intention.
Francis Bacon.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead and Google that, Keenan.
I'm going to Google this guy.
Okay. You can also drop in color in the areas that are wet. Just let it move. Sometimes too, like when I'm feeling edgy, I can just take an area and do like a little bit of an upstroke with the dry brush. And I'm staying within very like more calm colors. Blues, greens. I'm not doing too much like of the orange. Are you seeing some of this stuff?
Yeah, he's like back in the day sci-fi.
Do you see some of it? Do you know what I mean by like...
It's weird.
A little bit gory? I mean, maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but I feel like I got the name right.
No, it's definitely what you're saying.
Okay.
It's weird. He was born in 1909. Do you know when he died? 1992.
Whoa.
He was old. That's awesome.
And then, like, the wonderful thing about watercolor is as you move on, like, we're just moving, right? We're just making marks, we're moving. You're going to come back to some areas and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, look at what happened right there. That is so cool. Or look at that blue, how that, like, moved around that green. Like, make sure you go back and appreciate some of these moments, because if you don't, you're missing it, you know? Okay, I feel good about that for my first layer. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my heated craft tool, and you can let it air dry or you can use this little fella, save some time.
I'll be honest, Francis Bacon's not my jam.
That's okay. I think it's a really freeing moment to look at.
That's a weird one.
Yeah. To look at art, to respect it for what it's trying to do, and to still say, you know what, that's not my aesthetic, but that's okay. It's still valid.
Yeah.
I think our base level of understanding of art is if we don't understand it or if we don't like it, we immediately diminish it. And we say, what is that? A colorful square? I could do that, you know, like.
Oh, I used to say that all the time.
But the reality is there's a point to it. There's a reason why that's there. And even if after you take the time to understand what it's trying to say or what this artist is trying to accomplish or any of those things, and it's still not your jam, which is totally valid, you can still respect it. And you can say, that's cool. Good job, Francis Bacon. Thank you for your contributions in art, but I'm gonna go look at other paintings. And that's okay.
I would only call him Bacon. Bacon, how you doing, buddy?
But I think it's in those moments where we push ourselves to these uncomfortable times of looking at art that we maybe wouldn't naturally gravitate towards, that we also grow and we learn, and to continue challenging ourselves. What of our assumed perspectives and perceptions, and why does beauty always equal good, and what is beautiful? How do we define that? And can there be beauty in things that maybe aren't aesthetically pleasing, and what are those? And so it's just like layering and digging deeper and constantly trying to, I don't know, look at things a new way. Okay, we're moving on to step 4. Same thing. The reason why I broke this up into 2 steps is I wanted to give us the value of layering. So we already have some layers going on. You can do some fresh layers here, and then you can also put it on top. So for me, this is very like round, 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 round. I kind of want to mess that up a little bit. So I'm going to take a color and just smear down. If you want it to be stronger, you do it in a darker value. Let that texture be rough. Gosh, look at that. Oh.
Ooh.
Oh, so beautiful.
I saw one of Francis Bacon's painting look kind of like that.
Yeah.
Stuff running down in the background.
And I'm doing circles because that's just kind of what my go-to for shapes, but you don't have to do circles at all. You can just do like funky boop boop. You know, like there's no wrong here. If you want to go more geometric, like squares, hard lines, that kind of thing.
That would actually be really cool too.
Sometimes I love the like wash, like that dry brush wash just as much as a good bleed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that actually feels pretty good. Maybe I'll do one more. And this is where you kind of look at composition. Where is my eye gravitating towards? Automatically my eye goes here because of how dark. My eye is going here. My eye is going here. And a little bit here. So I feel like this area as a whole feels forgotten. So you can either do like a dark value there, or when you go to use your pen, you can do some like more mark making or like activate that area. So any areas that are feeling like they're falling off the painting, try and think about how can I activate this, but not so much that the whole thing is activated. Gosh, sorry.
You got to have breathing room, but you want things to be, you know, not left out.
Yes, it's tricky.
It is. It's a balance.
It is. Okay. I feel really good about where that's at.
Me too.
So I'm just gonna dry it. And the fun thing about this is you can use this technique with literally any supplies. Like let's say that there are supplies that you are looking at trying, like, gosh, I think a couple months ago we did the watercolor wax pastels, Caran d'Ache. Mm-hmm. Those are so fun, but sometimes we get a set of something and we're just like, how do I use this? These kinds of exercises are exciting because they're just fun, and it's an excellent way to get to know your tools that you're using, because there's no expectation of it being a finished, like, final amazing thing, right? It's more just like, how can I stretch this mark? How can I roll it around in a different way to get something new and exciting? So really, if you have other tools that you've been thinking about using and you're not sure how to use them, bring them out. Okay. So this is dry. Now I can take my pen, and you can use the thick or the thin side, and I'm gonna start, you can just do different marks. So if you like dashes, you can do dashes. And I think I kind of want to put some maybe over here. And if you want to keep it in a circle shape, you can. I'm kind of doing like just chunks. We're just interested in getting different textures. That's pretty fun. Okay, we have bleed proof white. Your guys' is gonna come in a smaller container, and if it's dry, like mine's a little bit dry, it reactivates with water. So just put some clean water in there. And you can use your 2 or your 6, whatever you want. I'm gonna use my 2. It's a little bit smaller. And then you can use white. Now I'm gonna use the white marks on the darker parts so it actually shows up. It actually would be probably really cool if you did like another continuous line drawing using white on top of it, you know?
It's like a reverse shadow.
Yeah. You can do dots. You could even do doodle shapes in here. Doing fish scales. You can do little leaves. I actually got the idea for this project because someone sent me a thank you card, and gosh, I should have grabbed it. Dang it. And she did something like this, like these kind of circle patterns with little doodles, and it just said thank you in the middle of it. I have it hanging in my office, and I was just looking at it one day, and I was just like, that is beautiful. And I'm like, that is so fun. We should do a project like this. And then it kind of just lined up really well with Wabi Sabi and what we were trying to do.
Cool.
Okay, now for your gold, I want to clarify or make it very clear. This is acrylic paint. It will stain. It will ruin your brushes if you do not clean your brushes. Now, usually acrylic paint and watercolor brushes, you do not combine those, my friends. But when you do little details, I'm always like, it's fine. So I'm just gonna use my watercolor brushes, but please know that you need to rinse your brushes very well after, so acrylic paint does not get stuck. And then I actually want to do some leaf shapes. So you can like follow ones that are already drawn. I'm gonna create a new one over here and try and like bring some life into this space over here. And you can just go right over your drawing if you want to. This is your painting, your project.
I like the gold.
You can do gold dots. You can even be like, what happens if I smear this gold acrylic paint? It still thins out. So it's just like a sheen, this really beautiful, soft sheen. We can do that over here. Maybe some more. And if you want different, if you're really enjoying this, this is, I would consider more mixed media because we're using acrylic, we're using pens, we're using watercolor, we're using drawing. We have entire boxes and courses dedicated to mixed media. Jessie does an excellent job. She's our mixed media artist who shows how to like use different supplies. And even if you are like, no, I'm just into watercolor, which I totally understand because I am too. But sometimes when you play with something different, it informs your own watercolor work. And so you don't have to look at it as, oh, now I'm a mixed media artist. Sometimes I just like to play with something new, and then it kind of gets my mind going. How can I apply this to watercolor? Or what did I learn about this that I really loved that I can put in some of the work that I want to make? Oh, and one other thing that I really liked is using different tools.
Oh.
I got my lid. I'm picking up some paint.
Oh. Ooh.
Or you can even be like, let's make, where should we put this? Let's put this here, a circle, and then just take your brush and fill it in.
Oh, that's fun too.
And then, like, let's say you make a mark and you don't like it. Like for me, this just feels very strong in my composition, like it's taking over everything. So let's just blend some of it out. You don't have to erase it, but the blending out aspect is now part of something else.
Cool.
And look how this gold mixes with this just beautifully. So you can soften your marks if you don't love how they turned out. And then, how is this? I'm actually gonna shape this leaf a little bit more. I don't love the overall shape, so I'm just going to. Now be careful with this pen, because if you go over the acrylic with it, with the fine tip, it tends to, so if you need to move to the thicker tip, do that. Okay, that feels better. I can even reshape some of these, make them thicker. Maybe activate this a little bit more with a thicker line. And I think I just need one more mark. My paper is falling off down here a little bit. So I'm just gonna add some dark into there. I love this so much.
This is a cool one.
And if you're someone who has been painting for a while and you're just like, I just need help with composition, I just need help with composition, look at doing these types of exercises. When we get so caught up in recreating a scene or a still life or all of these things, it's difficult for us to be able to take everything in. But when we're creating pieces that aren't necessarily supposed to be representational of a scene, of an animal, of an object, it's much easier to see it as a whole and to make decisions that you're not afraid are going to ruin the painting. So if you're stand back and look at this and say, this area feels empty, it's much easier to practice those types of things on paintings that aren't trying to represent something bigger than what it is. Okay? That's our project.
Great project.
Isn't this fun?
That's super fun.
So, I guess I'm just encouraging you to allow yourself the freedom to play. Take time to appreciate the imperfect and the different marks that you're gonna make. And instead of looking at this as like this, ugh, look at this as, I wonder what would happen if I do this. I wonder what would happen if I try and do a cup or my art supplies drawing or my daughter or flowers or an apple, you know, like just allow yourself to go there. Allow yourself to be not great at something, and it's all in the name of learning and exploring and fun. So thank you so much for painting with me. I hope you have the best time. Keenan,
Sarah,
always a pleasure.
thank you.
If you are on Facebook, please join our watercolor Facebook group. This is where people share what they're making, and I'm gonna wanna see what people are making like this, right?
Yes.
Like everybody's is gonna be so cool and different. So go to Facebook, Let's Make Art Watercolor. If you're on Instagram, tag us. We're at Let's Go Make Art. We would love to see what you're making. I feel like there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. So we're done here. If you need any of these supplies, find them at letsmakeart.com. We'll see you later. Bye.